For all things football,
wow, you will not see a better goal.
BBC Sounds has got you covered.
These fans have gone absolutely wild.
More live Premier League football than anywhere else on 5 Live.
And there is the whistle, and a brand new season begins.
And the Football Daily podcast.
Everything football, every day.
For all the Premier League action and reaction, listen on BBC Sounds. BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello, I'm Alasdair Lamont. This is the Scottish Football Podcast, here with the final word on the weekend's action.
In terms of performance and results, in really difficult conditions, it was always going to be a challenge, but I thought the players were very, very good right from the off.
There's no change at the top as Celtic smashed St Mirren. Aberdeen also maintained their 100% record with a win against Kilmarnock.
Delivery as well! And Pappy Gay doubles up!
Should that game have even taken place? Derek McInnes doesn't think so.
It was interesting, as I say, to hear some of the comments, some of the self-interest that you hear, and some of the garbage really came on the back of it.
We'll discuss that and round up all the other action with big wins for Motherwell, Dundee United and Rangers.
Chance here for Danilo, and he scores!
And there's a header in! Stephen O'Donnell nods past Craig Gordon.
Babinski in the middle, Ray makes the save, Stevenson's there!
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sports Scotland.
Yes, I'm joined for this edition of the podcast by, first of all, Marvin Bartley. How are you, Marv?
Yeah, I'm all good, thanks, Al.
Good show. And also Aiden McGeady. How's things, Aiden?
Yeah, great, thank you. All good.
Well, as we record, it's the evening of Sunday the 25th of August, but you'll be hearing this on Monday morning at the earliest. There's lots to discuss. But before we get into things in more depth, Marv, first of all, what was your highlight of the Scottish football weekend?
I think it would probably have to be Rangers in terms of the way they kind of dismantled Ross County.
Here's Matondo jinking into the box, left-hand side of the 6-yard area, pulls it across, and Dessers touches it home. For the second of the afternoon, he started the season so well. Really good play down the left by Matondo. That's what Dean wants to do on a more regular basis.
There's been a lot of pressure on them in recent weeks, and it's a real team performance heading into obviously the game against Celtic at the weekend. So yeah, for a neutral, it would definitely be Rangers, because obviously you want to see the two best teams going at it in full form.
Aiden, I suspect you'll be the same, are you?
How did you know? No, I can't be the same. Marv said there's a neutral there, but unfortunately I'm not a neutral. I think Marvin's touched on it there. I think Rangers, it was a much needed victory, but I'd probably have to go with Celtic, just maintaining their current form, I think, and the way they've started the season so well. Yeah,
it augurs well for a good game next Sunday. Plenty of chat on that to come over the course of the week. Anyhow, let's just take a look at the latest Scottish football headlines. Celtic ran out comfortable winners 3-0 over St Mirren and Paisley to maintain their 100% record so far this season. Manager Brendan Rodgers confirmed before the game that midfielder Matt O'Reilly's transfer to Brighton is imminent. Aberdeen also continued their perfect start under Jimmy Tellene. Their 2-0 home victory over Kilmarnock, their 8th in a row since he took charge at Pittodrie. Elsewhere on Sunday, Motherwell piled on the misery for Hearts with a 3-1 win over the Edinburgh club at Fir Park. On Saturday, Rangers routed Ross County 6-0 at Hampden. Dundee United recorded a 2-0 home win over St Johnstone. And Hibs and Dundee drew 2-2 at Easter Road. In the SWPL, Rangers remain top of the table on goal difference following a 3-0 victory at Montrose. And on the transfer front, Napoli have agreed a fee of around €30 million with Manchester United for the Scotland midfielder Scott McTominay.
The Scottish Football Podcast.
Righto, let's begin with Sunday's action, shall we? St Mirren 0, Celtic 3 in the midday kick-off. Aiden, I was doing that game for radio, and it was pretty comfortable again for Celtic, wasn't it? And I just think the way they've been starting games this season has just been highly impressive.
I've said before that they've taken last season's form, the end of last season's form into this season, pre-season as well. Quite a lot of funny games in America, which you wouldn't expect them to win, but they've carried that over into the start of the season. A lot of players have really been hitting form, considering you're 3 games into the season. Comfortable victory. I think the early goal obviously helps because St Mirren's not an easy place to go. You know how Stephen Robinson sets his team out. They're difficult to play against, especially against the top teams. I think they always get the best results against the top teams because they know that they're not going to have much of the ball. The way he sets his team out is very defensive and it's counter-attack, but Celtic were comfortable from the off. I thought a few good goals. I thought Hatate's goal was excellent. McGregor's goal was excellent as well. And it just goes, I think, to show the strength and depth that Celtic have got when I think O'Reilly's been spoken about, obviously leaving, but today, like, you're not noticing that the team's missing him.
No, virtually not at all. And especially, I suppose, Marv, when the likes of McGregor and Hatate are popping up with the goals, just on McGregor, it's difficult to find any flaws in his game. But I remember saying to Packy Bonner towards the end of last season that I didn't feel like Callum McGregor did get enough goals in recent years. Whereas, you know, at the start of his career, I guess he was playing a bit further forward, which clearly helps. But, you know, if Callum McGregor's going to add another facet to his game and get on the score sheet regularly, he's going to be unplayable.
Yeah, I think he is hitting that now, isn't he? I think he is virtually unplayable, along with the rest of his teammates, by the way, like Aiden just said. And it's almost like the retirement from international football has given him a new lease of life. And he knows now when these international breaks are coming up, he's going to be able to fully rest. So he's given Celtic 100%. I don't mean that he wasn't giving Celtic that beforehand, but he probably thought, right, when I go away with Scotland, I'll have to play in a couple of games as well. So as a player, naturally, you know, you try and hold some back, but he's not doing that. You know, Celtic have started this season excellently well. You know, you spoke about it there, how fast they start games, but Callum McGregor has been vital to all of that. And like you said, he's chipping in with goals now. Steve Robinson would have been very disappointed in conceding an early goal, but, you know, what an excellent finish it was by him again. You know, he did the same against Hibs, another fabulous finish, and no wonder Brendan Rodgers is delighted that he's retired from international game.
Yeah. Now, clearly, with Matt O'Reilly going, there's a massive chunk of money coming into Celtic. They already had a lot of money in the bank, Aiden, as we know from their accounts. So there's money there to spend. They haven't been overly busy in the transfer market so far. What do you think they need to do in this final week of the window to strengthen? I mean, clearly they don't need to massively strengthen to go on and probably be champions again, but it's in terms of, you know, trying to make any sort of impact in Europe. Clearly they want to add quality.
Yeah, I think Europe is the onus. I think I listened to Brendan Rodgers after the game, and he was saying there's going to be signings incoming. There's not a lot of time for that right enough, but I think the recruitment team at Celtic in the past have been very good at what they've done. They look at the turnover in players and the money generated from player sales. And Matt O'Reilly is just another one to add to the list. I think in terms of strengthening, you would probably be looking, I think I'd be looking straight away for a left back. I think that's been the one area. Probably to push Greg Taylor and to give him a fight for his position and his backup. And I think, like you mentioned there, I don't think Celtic, it's very early days in the season, but to say that there's a good chance of retaining the SPL title. I think they're the strongest team, the strongest squad, but the onus is making inroads into Europe, and that's what every fan wants, because for the last 2 seasons, the European campaigns haven't been anywhere close to what they've been in the past. So I think they'll have their transfer targets identified already, and I'd be very surprised if we don't see 2 or 3 players come in the next week, 10 days.
Yeah, well, that's definitely one to watch over the next few days. And again, there'll be further discussion on that in episodes over the course of the week. Just to touch on St Mirren, Marv, because that's now 4 defeats in a row. And clearly it's too early in the season to have too many concerns about that. But nonetheless, with Dundee actually away from home in their next game, it doesn't particularly get much easier for Stephen Robinson's side.
No, it doesn't. You know, and as we've spoken about in terms of St Mirren, that they're always set up very, very well. But I always speak about this when teams go into Europe and they're playing that Thursday, Sunday, as St Mirren have done until obviously getting knocked out. It makes things so difficult. You know, Aiden will tell you, he's played in a lot of European competitions, but just the recovery. And when your team just starting that, you don't have the size of a squad of a Celtic or Rangers who have been doing it, year in, year out. So that's made things more difficult. Yes, it's 4 defeats in a row, but they won't panic. We saw last time when St Mirren didn't start a league campaign or a League Cup campaign too well, what they went on to achieve. It's a massive game against Dundee, and every game's massive for St Mirren. But I think he'll be delighted to have that kind of weeks, build up into that game, and they'll believe they can beat Dundee. They'll want to better what they did last season, and they'll have to start picking up points. But yeah, it's far too early to panic. He's an experienced manager with a very, very good squad, and they'll have no troubles this season at all in terms of finishing in the top 6.
Well, Aberdeen have certainly got ambitions of doing at least that as well, haven't they? And clearly the start, they've made 9 points from 9, as well as a really good League Cup campaign under Jimmy Tellene. How impressed have you been with them so far, Aiden?
I've been very impressed with them. I didn't expect a lot of Aberdeen. I mean, it's funny when we're talking about how well teams started the season. We're only 3 games in, but to pick up maximum points for Aberdeen, considering the campaign they had last year, it's a big change. But I think they've recruited well. I think obviously the signing of Kevin Nisbet as well is a shrewd piece of business. Surprised he didn't go back to Hibs, but it just shows that Aberdeen are definitely trying to go places in the SPL this year. The new managers came in, and I think that you can see a difference in the way he's trying to play. That was quite early on when you took over. You could see there was a big difference and a big change in kind of attitude and the way they approach games, I thought. And to be honest, I'd be very surprised. Like I said, it's already very early in the season, but yeah. I'd be surprised if they're not knocking on the door for third place. I think that's where they want to be.
And it's interesting that Papagay got a couple of goals today, having had a pretty patchy start to his Aberdeen career.
Shinnie. Papagay! Aberdeen make the breakthrough! And it's been coming just these last 5 or 10 minutes. And Papagay celebrates his second Aberdeen goal. Shinnie's cross, a bullet header. All these new signings, all this hope for Aberdeen, and it's one of the players who failed to really grasp his opportunity here last season, who's given them the lead.
Even Esther Sokler's been getting a lot of game time, having mainly featured off the bench last season. Marv, these guys, when you add Kevin Nisbet to that mix as well, it looks like they've got potential there to have a fair bit of firepower, even despite the fact that they've sold Miovski.
Well, exactly. If you'd have said 5 weeks ago that Aberdeen will sell Miovski and we'll be speaking about them still having firepower and not having lost a game, and in fact won all their games today, they'd probably laughed at you. But they have done it. They do have some really good players at the top end. As Aiden said there about Kevin Nisbet going in as well. I think he's a fantastic centre forward. He's shown that when he was at Hibs. He's obviously gone down the road. It hasn't worked out the way he wanted it to, but he's hungry as well. And we're talking about the players that they have at the top, and they all know that they're all fighting for that place now, because Miovski wasn't number one. He was their talisman, but now it's open. It's open season for absolutely everybody, and that's when you get the best out of attacking players, because they all think that if I train well, if I play well in the game, I'm going to retain my place. And there's nothing better. Attacking players are probably the most confident players on the pitch. They rely on that confidence to be at their best. So, yeah, listen, Aberdeen have been fantastic. And, I'm sure they'll probably make a couple of more signings as well before the window closes.
Just on Kilmarnock, I mean, it's been a tough start to the season for them. You'd have to say, with that, you're talking about St Mirren's European games also having an impact on the domestic stuff, and you can definitely see that with Killie. I just wonder, Derek McInnes was quite strong today about his suggestion that game be postponed to allow them to focus on the Copenhagen return leg. He was talking about that being met with garbage and self-interest. What are your own thoughts, Aiden, in terms of the game going ahead? Do we have a duty as a collective in terms of the league to postpone games where it's requested, or is that just never going to happen?
It's a funny one for me, because I can't remember in the past if there's ever been any domestic games postponed for European ties midweek. I know Marvin was saying there about St Mirren, and you put Killie in the mix as well in terms of the size of squad. So I do understand that, but that's what every club wants to do. They want to finish high up the league, so they have European football. So you have Thursday night games, you have Sunday games. It's a difficult one. I'm in the camp that the game should have went ahead. It's like it did. There's no. I don't think that there was any reason really to call it off.
I know that certainly some of the opponents that Scottish teams have come up against. In fact, I know that because I was doing the Hearts Victoria Poulsen game, and I know that Poulsen's game this weekend has been postponed. So they effectively from that first leg can now just concentrate purely on going and finishing the job. And I'm pretty sure Dynamo Kiev certainly had games prior to the Rangers one postponed.
I do understand that when it's other countries, but the precedent hasn't been set in this country before for games being postponed. I'm just going back to when I was at Celtic. We had relentless schedules. We had a bigger squad and a more inflated squad, but the games were Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday for up until Christmas, and that's to be honest, I think that the manager, I think Derek McInnes he's right in what he's saying, and you probably would have wanted a little bit of leeway with the league, but until that precedent's been set, I don't think it's a funny one. I don't think it's going to happen.
It's probably something, Marv, that would have to be agreed at the start or prior to the start of the season, wouldn't it? Throughout the league, to say if X club requests a postponement for a European tie, then we will look at it, rather than doing it sort of off the cuff kind of thing as it seems to have been done here.
Yeah, and listen, I'm in total agreement with kind of what Derek's saying in terms of the games being called off, especially during the qualifying campaign only, because we always speak about our league and how come it looked better, kind of, and that's by bringing more money in. So I agree with what Derek's saying. I think the difficulty comes when a manager's in that position, when it's his team and he comes up with that idea. I think if we say now for next season, if teams are in the qualifiers and you're playing on a Thursday, you can request for the Sunday game to be postponed. At this moment in time, no one knows who's going to be in Europe. No one knows where anyone's going to finish in the league. And I think that's what Aiden's alluding to there. It's very, very different when you are in the situation. But I think if we say, right, from now, next season, they request for it to be postponed, then we're all in agreement, because it only benefits us. The more teams we have in Europe, the more teams qualifying. I think it's worth, is it 4 million if Kilmarnock were to get into Europe, £4 or £5 million? And that's more money coming into our game. That's better players coming into our game. It could be used for their academy. There's so many things. It's endless. So, yeah, I think in terms of wanting to strengthen our game, we have to do that. We have to follow suit with some of the other European countries to give us the best opportunity to have as many Scottish teams as possible in Europe.
Let's move on to the other Sunday game. Motherwell with a 3-1 win over Hearts.
But it's bubbling about in the defensive area, and that's an underhit pass, and it's through, and it's into the top corner! Extend their leads. What a moment. They needed it. But Hearts, uncertainty at the back, and they are ruthlessly punished. Sparrow pounces on the underhit pass, and it's prodded into the Craig Gordon's top corner. And Hearts scores.
That's, on the face of it, so it's a really cracking win for Motherwell, but a really poor result, you'd have to say, Aiden, for Hearts.
Yes, I think both teams were in much need of a win to kind of kickstart the season. Stephen Naismith's been not seen come under a little bit of pressure. I think you always get pressure being manager of a team like Hearts, but to be going out the cup and after the European result midweek and then not starting the league very well at all. I think I've seen they've only scored 2 goals this season. It's funny because 2 weeks ago you're saying how well they've recruited, but for Hearts to have the size of squad that they've got and the players they've brought in to be really struggling to score goals, it's a funny one. I just think that I think Hearts will be absolutely fine. I think they'll be fine. They've got too many good players who know the league well enough, I think, to struggle and to be kind of down the bottom end of the table. I think they had a really good campaign last year, but it was a great result for Motherwell.
Let's quickly move on to Saturday's action. Marv, you spoke about Rangers at the top of the podcast, so I'll come to you on that 6-0 victory. Again, I was doing that for our highlights programme, and it struck me as certainly Rangers' best performance of the season, albeit against a county side that looked pretty poor. But Dessers with a couple of goals, 2 goals and 2 assists for Matondo as well, and even like I said, Danilo coming back and getting on the score sheet. So signs of positivity for Rangers ahead of such a big game next Sunday.
Yeah, it was a much needed performance. Listen, when you at Rangers, they need to win all games. We know that. If you play for one of the big 2 as expected, but the performances have been missing. Even against St Johnstone in the Cup, they went through and they won 2-0, but the performance at times wasn't up to the levels that they need. But yeah, listen, I know Ross County, didn't put up much of a fight, but you can only beat what's in front of you. And you spoke about Matondo there. Dessers, he's had his critics, he scores goals. That's simple. Matondo's probably one of the most frustrating players, if not the most frustrating player for probably in the league.
Czerny is on it, pulls it back. Matondo scores again, despite the efforts of Brown on the line. Rangers score a 5th goal, and some of these players who were desperate for a boost of confidence are getting it and some this afternoon. It's shooty end for the home team here at Hampden. It's Matondo,
because on his day he can do what he did yesterday, and then far too often we see him not perform anywhere near that level. He's a player with potential, but he needs to somehow find a way to take games by the scruff of the neck like he did yesterday. And as I said, it was a perfect timing for Rangers going into obviously the massive game coming up on Sunday. They'll be delighted with that. The fans will be delighted, and they'll be in a buoyant mood now. So training this week, I'm sure, will be at a much higher level than it has been when they have been scraping through games. But they're going to have to be at that level again, if not better, to try and get anything against a rampant Celtic.
No, absolutely, yeah. They will, I think, require another level again. Aiden, looking at another of your former teams, Hibs drawing 2 each against Dundee again yesterday. Again, David Gray's desperate for that victory, isn't it? It didn't quite come. What do you make of their result and the performance and where they're at right now?
Well, I think Hibs definitely played better yesterday. It was a performance I think that was needed. Just very unfortunate that the last few minutes of the game, one of your former strikers and someone that you were in for during the window and you missed out on has managed to get the equaliser.
McEwen stabs it forwards and it's helped into the path of Simon Murray. He's done it. Simon Murray against his old club. And the Dundee striker enjoyed that one as much as every Dundee fan at Easter Road. Look what it means to him. So influential up top. Never gives.
I don't think David would be too disheartened with. He'd be obviously gutted about the last couple of 88th minute equaliser, but I think the performance on the whole was a lot better, and it's something that probably a lot of people need to look into, because it's at the minute I think they're struggling for a result, which David had been desperate to get yesterday. But I think patience needs to be shown with Dave, because too many times at Hibs over the last few years it's a bit of a merry-go-round, I think.
Yeah.
Bad results, get rid of the manager, get rid of players. I think there has to be a bit of patience shown with Dave, and I think with the recruitment this window, I think all signs are looking that they're trying to improve. Of course, everyone's trying to improve every single window, but it looks to me like it's a different mentality now at Hibs. A lot of different people in charge now. Malcolm McGeady is the football. I think that Hibs will be fine. I think they will be fine, but a victory is needed in the next few weeks, I think.
It's another good result for Dundee, you'd have to say. We've given them a lot of praise on this podcast, so we'll reserve that for the moment, but another terrific point at least. But you would have to say that Dundee United as well, like Dundee last season, have made a positive return, Marv, to the Premiership, and another 2-0 victory over St Johnstone yesterday. They're looking pretty good so far.
Yeah, they are. And I wasn't sure what to expect from Dundee United. And listen, I know it's really, really early days, but it's another good victory for Jim Goodwin and his side. I think their recruitment's been shrewd. They've kind of gone into a market and got players that we hadn't heard of before, and they've came in and made a really good impact, which is difficult in the Scottish game, because it's a lot more physical than any other league in Europe. So yeah, he'll be delighted the way they've started. They'll need to keep it up though, because there is pressure at Dundee United. They're just sending their rivals, 100 metres up the street, finishing the top 6 last season, after coming up. So they'll want the same. So Jim understands the pressures that are there. He'll be taking it one game at a time, as all managers do. Mm-hmm. But yeah, in terms of the start they've made, they've been fantastic. And St Johnstone aren't an easy team to play, especially with those 2 strikers. Got a lot of pace within that team. So yeah, a real good victory for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, another really interesting weekend of Premiership action. But before we finish up, I just want to touch on the Championship as well, because Aiden, Ayr United have started really impressively under Scott Brown. Another good 2-0 victory over Raith Rovers on Saturday. Somerset Park must be a pretty positive place to be at the moment.
Yeah, it's extremely positive. Going on from last season with a poor campaign. The manager came in, obviously I think he came in February time. It's difficult to get your ideas across to a squad that you're inheriting, I think. But he's managed to bring a lot of players in that he wanted this season. There's been a bit of investment, I think, as well, to try and get promoted, as opposed to just kind of hanging about the Championship and thinking 3, 4, 5 years when the club is probably ready for it. Not ready for it in terms of infrastructure and things, but I think obviously the club goes up. Everybody wants that, but it seems to me that the club have had a right go this season. Scott's come in and this is pretty evident what he wants to do. He's very obsessed with his team's pressing. The way he wants to defend is key. And so far, the team have been playing very, very well. The 4 wins from 4, top of the league, and the Championship's a tough league as well. I mean, I think you'd say probably anyone can beat anyone. That's the way it was last season, but the team have performed very well so far, and like you said, it is a very positive place. The atmosphere, the fans, people are starting to get excited, and that's what everyone wants to bring back to the club.
We'll see how that progresses over the course of the season, no doubt. Well, thanks very much to both Aiden McGeady and Marvin Bartley for joining me on this edition of the Scottish Football Podcast. Remember, we'll be here with new episodes bright and early every weekday morning, so to make sure you don't miss out, just follow or subscribe wherever you listen. But that's all for this episode. Bye for now.
This is the shocking moment English football has been dreading.
My name is Moses Swebu, and I used to be a professional footballer, but then I got in deep with organised crime and became a match fixer operating in the English League.
A match-fixing investigator has highlighted 2 matches he says appear to have suspicious betting patterns.
How honest are you going to be with me? This is 100%. Join me for Sports Strangers Crimes presents Confessions of a Match Fixer. Listen on BBC Sounds.